In FNAF fashion, the announcement to Secret of the Mimic not only gave us a glimpse at what is to come, but it also created a ton of questions. This 40-second teaser along with the PAX West demo poses questions like, is this even the Mimic? Where is the game going to take place? And who are we playing as? This game could very well be a whole new story or origin for the Mimic. So let's talk about it. Before we try to answer everything, I think it's important to lay out all of the facts as to what we know from the trailer and the demo. I also want to quickly mention that while I will be talking about the PAX demo, I did not play it, so I recommend you go check out the other creators that did for better details about it. Okay, so the first and most obvious fact is that the game will include this Jack-in-the-Box jester character. This will be the main antagonist, which leads to the question of, is Jackie the Mimic? But we will come back to that. Another fact about this character is that Jackie is legless. During the demo, when the player first meets her, she is still attached to the Jack-in-the-Box. However, she ends up breaking free. The third fact is this game will be taking place in or around 1979, which is around the same time when the Mimic was created. Now, from the demo, its location is inside a factory, or maybe warehouse if you will. These are the basic facts from what we have seen or heard so far from Secret of the Mimic. So let's try to answer the biggest question first. Is Jackie the Mimic? I think so, but you could make an argument that she's not. This is because of the missing legs, and it doesn't quite look like this jester appearance is a costume. It kinda looks like it's an actual animatronic itself. Plus, the eyes on Jackie are not the same as the eyes from the Mimic in Ruin. However, to counter the eye argument, there was an unused eye texture for the Mimic in Ruin which exactly matches the eyes in this teaser. Plus, it could have just been a design choice for the game. Or maybe it's a completely different endoskeleton, but I'll talk about that later on. So what about the missing legs? Well, when Edwin first built the Mimic, it did not have legs at all. It was just the upper half. Meaning, when the first cleanup crew from Fazbear Entertainment came to Edwin's building, they found the Mimic without legs and attached ones themselves. Therefore, there is a small time period where Secret of the Mimic could fit into, assuming it's following that story. Either way, I do think this is the Mimic. So what about the time period? Like I mentioned earlier, this game will be taking place in or around 1979. The Mimic was created in the late 1970s per the books. So obviously that answers when the game is going to take place. Now let's talk about the game's location. Everyone that's played the demo has mentioned the building looking like some kind of factory or warehouse. We can even see a little bit of the inside from the monitors at the event. There are hallways, a carousel, animatronic parts, and a bunch of FNAF posters everywhere. But there was also a bunch of stuff that we couldn't see. There was an emphasis on storage, how boxes were everywhere along with blueprints, and a ton of seemingly random or new animatronics. The demo also included the same elephant mascot from the Ruin DLC, although it looked a little different, but that would make sense considering how long it would have been from Secret of the Mimic to Ruin. That being said, where else have we seen a factory or warehouse before in the FNAF timeline? Well, of course, we go back to Edwin Murray. Edwin ended up buying an abandoned 5,000 square foot factory to house his robotics business. However, this business did not have the longevity that he expected, so he wasn't making as much money as he thought he would. On top of this, Edwin was having a hard time trying to raise his son David alone while he worked, meaning Edwin and his son lived in this factory together. So, having knowledge as both an engineer and an architect, Edwin converted some of the factory's offices into a small apartment with a living room, kitchen, bedrooms, and a bathroom. Now, the complexity of Edwin's machine required many hours of work as well as expensive parts. This, along with raising a child, would run Edwin's finances dry. So Fazbear Entertainment came in and bought Edwin's company. He then worked under Fazbear Enterprises. For the next year and a half, Edwin would build endoskeletons and attach them to the costumes that Fazbear provided. So this explains the costumes. I won't go too much much into detail about the Mimic's creation because I've already done this in a previous video, but Edwin decided to build a robot using the older projects he had laying around the facility. This robot would accompany David so Edwin could get his work done without interruption. So he crafts the machine and creates a robot's upper half, but it needed a mind of its own. He used a combination of code to create a thinking mind that learns by mimicking what it observes. Edwin named it Mimic, after the name of the program Mimic 1. Unfortunately, Edwin's son ends up getting hit by a car. With his son gone, the Mimic starts acting like his son. This filled Edwin with anger, and he takes it out by beating down the Mimic. Filled with regret, Edwin runs off and abandons everything. From here, the Fazbear team comes in and finds the Mimic. With all that being said, I think it's safe to assume that Secret of the Mimic's location could very well be inside Edwin's factory. When selling his company to Fazbear Entertainment, they likely rebranded it to include Fazbear memorabilia, hence all of the posters we see in the demo. The blueprints and new animatronics were things that Edwin might have been working on for the company. So when the first team shows up, they run into the Mimic. But how would the Mimic have been made into a Jack-in-the-Box? Well, maybe before the team put legs on the Mimic, they turned it into one. But I recognize that's kind of a stretch, so I'm not exactly sure how they would tie this story into the Mimic's origin timeline, assuming Jackie is the Mimic. Now, what if this location is actually the Fazbear Entertainment Distribution Center? This could make perfect sense. It's described as a warehouse for all of Fazbear Entertainment properties, including items like toys, animatronic parts, and costumes that were to be sent off to restaurants, stores, and other public venues. This could explain the random animatronics we see in the demo, all of the storage boxes, and even the elephant costume. But the most important part here are the toys. Jackie is a Jack-in-the-Box toy. So if this is the distribution center, what does this mean for the Mimic? Well, unless Fazbear Entertainment somehow repurposed the Mimic into a Jack-in-the-Box for a very short period of time, I think this is a brand new story for the character. Although this could still be Edwin's old workshop, so maybe while going through his old projects, they found the Mimic 1 program and uploaded it to this Jack-in-the-Box, which then turned this innocent toy into a killing machine. Maybe this is a different Mimic endoskeleton from the one we saw in Ruin, but it just has the same code, which could explain the different eyes. This location could even be where Henry would work. Either way, if this is Edwin's workshop or the distribution center, it opens up so many different possibilities. The very last question I want to try and answer is, who are we playing as? There is one specific detail I have yet to talk about that is from the demo, and that would be that we are wearing some kind of mechanic gloves. So this could mean a few different things. What if we are playing as Edwin, some point in between him leaving the factory and before getting rehired, hence the mechanic gloves? Maybe he decided to return one day to pick up his belongings, only to find the location has been taken over by Fazbear Entertainment. Once inside, he finds the Jack-in-the-Box, only for it to reveal itself as the Mimic. Or we could be playing as Henry, which could also explain the mechanic gloves. Maybe we are entering the building on a weekend to spend extra time on a project, only to get greeted by the Mimic. With all of that being said, I do think Edwin is somehow going to be included in the game. Either we play as him, this was once his factory, or he is brought up in some way in notes about the Mimic's creation. Considering Ruin's ending with the Mimic inside the costume, that more or less confirms at least some of the Mimic's creation from the books are canon. Mimic learned how to do this from David, Edwin's son. But honestly, I'm open to any possibility here. Even if they make a whole new origin story for the character, I'm cool with that. I just want to see more of the Mimic's sinister antics in action. What do you guys think is going to happen in Secret of the Mimic? Will this be the same origin story or something completely new? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you like horror game content like this, please consider subscribing. Also, if you want to support the channel more, you can become a member. Don't forget to follow my Twitter at TerrifiedT. Thanks for watching.